Welcome back to another episode of the Tech Talks Daily podcast, where every single day we unravel the mysteries of complex technologies and explore how they're solving real-world problems in both our lives, our business, and even world. And I'm your host, Neil C. Hughes. I'm thrilled to have you with us today. And as a lover of a tech podcast, a quick shout out to We Got Your Mac. It is a fantastic podcast I'm listening to at the moment, brought to you by SHI. And they explore the world of Mac adoption in the enterprise and discuss the amazing benefits and unique challenges that come with it. So tune into We Got Your Mac wherever you listen to your podcast, or visit wegotyourmac.com. There's a treasure trove of episodes and valuable resources over there. So please don't miss this opportunity to gain insights and make more informed decisions, especially if you're looking to embrace the power of the Mac. But today, I'm very fortunate to have two remarkable thought leaders who are going to join me on the podcast. And they are on a mission to transform the world of performance management and coaching in organisations. And if I'm honest, I think performance management inside organisations has been due an upgrade for years now. And Wade and Zoltan from GoMobi, they're going to be joining me today, sharing their journey, their insights, and a more innovative approach to revolutionising workplace culture through technology and micro moments. But enough from me. Buckle up and hold on tight as I beam your ears all the way stateside, where Wade and Zoltan are going to be joining us on the podcast today. So a massive warm welcome to the show. We've got two great guests joining me today. So Zoltan, to begin with, can you just tell everyone listening a little about who you are and what you do?
Yeah, so I've been primarily in education for about the last 30 plus years. So I'm really focusing after being a classroom teacher for 20 years, last several years working on professional development with faculty and with program development. So really thinking about what are the programs we want to sort of develop, and then currently bringing teachers along with that. And then recently, really thinking in conjunction with Wade, and I have been talking about this for several years now, and sort of kicked it off a couple of years ago, really thinking about how do some of those lessons that we learn from the education world, how do they dovetail with the business world? So one of the things that it's been pretty apparent to me is that there's kind of a firewall between education and business. Business doesn't look too much to education to inform what they're doing, and vice versa. And I think there's lessons to be learned on both sides that are really useful for both sides. So again, my role has been really in looking at employees' potential and how can we improve their performance. A big part of this is we know when people feel competent and when they feel supported and have that strong sense of meaning, their well-being goes through the roof. And so particularly in this day and age when retaining employees is such a question out there, I think this is some of the work that has been most important to me, is making sure people are comfortable in what they're doing. And that's whether they're an employee or a manager. So,
love that. And Wade, I'd love to bring you in here. You could tell everyone listening a little about who you are, and also maybe your origin story. What brought the two of you together to solve these problems?
I'd love to share that, Neil. I'm just thinking here, that's one of the things that I'm most grateful for in my entire life is my interaction with Zoltan ongoing. So Zoltan mentioned that he's got a background in education. That's actually how we met. Zoltan was doing the staff development and a professional credentialing for a school that I actually attended as a student. And he was a mentor to me then. And over the years, he's continued to be a mentor to me. So that's something that I'm very grateful in my life. And in my career, early on in my career, I worked for a startup that grew very quickly. We grew from about 40 people when I joined to 170 people in about a year and a half. So rocket ride of a startup, very impressive product, great team. And the fact that we had such good intentions and really wanted to create a world-class culture, which we really felt proud of what we were doing, still presented its challenges. And one of the things that I felt was a sticking point in the relationship that our team had was this process of performance reviews. And the fact that even in a really impressive company, that a performance review was something that we were only doing once a year. And as a performance-oriented person, and I'm a personal I had been doing personal coaching for many years, performance coaching for high achievers, before I started doing this with organizations. So this idea that feedback was only being given in a formal way once a year inside an organization which is really trying to achieve, those two things didn't line up for me. So if we're really interested in helping each other improve, then why are we only talking about this in a formal sense once per year? So I reached out to Zoltan because I've never had anyone who knows as much about people performance and helping people grow as he does. So he came back with all these great ideas, and we thought, and my question to him was, well, do you go out and consult and do this with folks? And he said, well, no, I've always had roles in different organizations doing it in-house. And I said, well, if I go out and find us some clients, would you help me with this? And so that's how the business got started. So we started off as consultants. We've made some very exciting developments since then, but that is the origin story.
Love that. I love how the universe threw the two of you together there. And of course, when we talk about performance management or performance reviews out loud, so many people will be getting that cold shudder down the back of their neck. So just to define the problem here, I mean, I suppose everyone listening will have their own take on this, but from your experience, what are most organizations getting wrong about performance management?
Well, I would say a key thing, well, one thing that we talk a lot about in the core part of our work is that often managers are promoted because they're really good at their job as an employee. So you're just knocking it out of the park. So we're going to promote you to manager. And there's an assumption that because they're good at the job that they had, that they would also be a good manager. There's also the problem that often they're still doing that job and now have the additional responsibilities of bringing people along. And so I think organizations don't pay enough attention to the professional learning for their managers on how do you bring somebody along who's struggling, or if somebody's actually doing really well, how do you bring them to the next level? There's a lot of knowledge that goes into that kind of process. And I think that's a key piece. That's part of our work. And one of the things we're going to talk a little bit later about this platform that Wade has developed, but it's really this comprehensive way of both supporting the employees, but primarily supporting the people who are their managers and their coaches in the field.
To add a thought onto that, we found and Zoltan mentioned a little bit of some of the developments, which we'll get into, but the thing that we've noticed about performance development is, and I'm sure everybody listening has had at some point some exposure to some kind of training, and whether that's something that your company has proactively brought somebody in to teach you something, or you've taken it upon yourself to go into LinkedIn Learning and watch a few videos on performance development or management, whatever it might be. People have all sorts of different exposure to that. But the way it becomes really effective is when there's a system inside the organization that supports effective management and effective performance development, which in our opinion are really one and the same thing. We don't even really like to use the word manager. It's kind of a no word for us because we think leader is a better word. The job of somebody who is shepherding others is to help them succeed. It's not to give them instructions and micromanage. That's the opposite of what good management actually is. So that's kind of the way that and that's a part of how we've grown as well.
And if I can add to that, part of that system is also, this has come about from both my experience over the years in organizations and in talking with Wade. It's also when you ask people in the company, what does stellar performance look like? What does really high level performance look like? And we ask the question, when you step into a space where somebody's really performing at a high level, what does it look like? How do you know? There's an array of answers. And what happens with that is because there's not really clear expectations of what high level performance looks like often. It's often based on the outcomes, perhaps the sales or whatever they may be. But what happens is when you get down to the employee level, they might be getting mixed messages all over the place. Just this person has said, this person's saying this, their manager changes, and now they're being coached in a different way about different aspects. And so a big part of what our work is really developing sets of agreements. That's part of the system, that there's these agreements that we say, this is what we expect. This is what we expect that high performance looks like. And we are going to coach into those specific aspects of what we've already identified. And so working with the companies they have the knowledge embedded in them. They just often haven't been able to take the time to say, so this is what it looks like for us.
And I suspect people listening from all around the world will be nodding their head in agreement. So much of what you both just said there will resonate with them. And this is a daily tech podcast. So I'd love to learn more about the role in technology in solving this problem. So Wade, can you tell me a little bit more about the platform and how you're using technology and ultimately data to better inform a more effective coaching? Can you expand on that?
One of the things that came about here is that Wade and I were talking about, so how do you keep track of this? And what I've just done over the years, I've had clipboards with notes and just Google Docs with notes everywhere that I have like a shorthand, but there's a pattern to it. Here's the kinds of things that I want to attend to in my notes. And so while talking with Wade, I just brought this up, and what he has done is put together this platform that actually does a lot of the kind of note keeping and record keeping that I would just do, scribbling notes to myself. So it's been fantastic.
That's a great tee off, Zoltan. Thank you for that. Neil, the tech idea is something that we came to gradually, and it's something that I've always been holding close to my heart because I really do believe in the power of a really effective tool in making somebody's life better. So that's our software ethos. That's the thing, that the North Star that we move towards every day, is that every interaction with this product, with this tool, should be something that gives somebody a sense of relief and a sense of something that, hey, this is something that is really making the quality of my life better. And in the context of how we speak about work and how we speak about well-being, we want this to be a tool that helps to create an environment of well-being at work, which we are calling the workplace of well-being. We want it to help create that vision for what people should feel like when they're at the workplace. So the software came about in a very interesting way. One of our early consulting clients said, gee, it would be really great. We helped them set up a whole system, a complete new way of doing management inside their organization, which we were very proud of. But one of the things that we had taught them was how to, inside a coaching session, we're trying to download this notes practice that Zoltan mentioned. They wanted it to be something that they could fill out something each time the coaching session was going on. And so the first version of it, the real true MVP, was a thing inside Google Forms. And so it started off with Google Forms, and we quickly realized that this is not going to cut it. So I set about creating a tool, which we have over 100 users in this tool. We're very excited about the growth of the tool early on, and lots more on the way. Great, very successful on launch so far. And the way that the tool works is it helps to organizations create clarity around the kinds of things that they want to coach on. So the first step, as Zoltan mentioned, in creating an effective performance development program, is deciding where are these specific areas that we want to see people growing. And most organizations, well-intentioned as they may be, don't take the time to think through these kinds of things. And it's not through any malintent, it's just because everybody's super busy. So the thing that we're always looking at is this requires some forethought on behalf of the organization that wants to create this environment, because without putting in the work of designing the structure that's going to help achieve the goal of well-being and development, you're not going to have success. So what the tool does is it gives you the skeleton, gives you the framework. And another guiding principle of ours with the software is customization, because we really believe that each organization is unique, and therefore we don't want to prescribe every company something that works in every case. Maybe if we had, for example, a set of coaching questions that we felt like maybe are important. Now, we do have a handful of those built into the system that we feel are foundational, but where the system becomes powerful is that we give the client, the customer, the ability to create those questions and prompts for themselves based on what they hold dear. So we talk a lot about core values and guiding principles as the foundation. So if you're a leader in an organization, chances are you've heard this term core values, and you may have even heard the term guiding principles. It's a little bit less well known, but very important. Now, to the extent which these things are discussed, talked about each day at work, that varies greatly from organization to organization. There are some organizations which have the core values on the wall, but walking around, you don't get a sense that those things are actually happening. And that can lead to a large degree of discord between the staff because people realize that there's a disconnect between what we say that we do and what we actually do. So we really focus on helping people set up during the implementation process of the software, helping them set up prompts that are going to enable coaches to keep people working towards those things. So it's foundational pieces like that are informing the methodology of coaching inside the organization and employee development at each interaction between the manager and the individual contributor. But really the beauty of the system is that we don't tell you what you should be tracking. We give you the ability to track anything you want. So that's the foundation of the software.
And I would just say a couple of things that I really appreciate about it. Again, as Wade says, it's very customizable. There's some software that I've seen out there. You have to send it off to the company, and there's a upcharge for changing the platform. And this is also, as priorities change in an organization, you want to be able to update as you're going. But to me, the thing that I appreciate, and this is also a problem I think with professional development in organizations, is that it's usually a one size fits all. Somebody comes in, and every single person in the organization gets that workshop, and whether they need it or not. And so with this, Wade has really configured it in a way that you can sort across teams or across the organization. This group of people are struggling with this aspect of what we're saying we're doing. And so we're going to do some professional learning for that group. It doesn't need to be the whole team. So I think it provides cost-effective solutions for organizations, but I also think there's nothing worse than sitting through a workshop that you've heard it all before, or is not helpful for you with the goals that you're working on. So I think I love that aspect of it, that it's really can be tuned to individual needs and to the organization's needs as well.
Any business leader that's listening to our conversation today, just to bring it all to life and help them maybe understand the role of technology and your software in improving things like clarity, alignment, and guiding principles in performance management. Is there maybe a use case or something you can share that will just help them understand how it could work in their world too?
Yeah, absolutely, Neil. One of the things that I'm remembering, you had a word you used in the last question that I forgot to speak to is data. Yeah. So the whole intention of the system is to develop data, because if you don't measure it, then you can't manage it, right? That's the colloquialism that we feel is very true. So the thing that we're focused on is taking all of this performance data that it's being captured. And legacy systems are great for note keeping. They're even great at helping you track and organize company-wide goals. There's some great software out there for doing OKRs, but we really see that OKRs are they're not a system that can exist in isolation if you really want to transform the way your organization works. Just because you have some OKRs, but when we see this a lot with customers, that their OKRs just aren't very clear. And it doesn't help people understand these are the kinds of things that I need to be doing day in and day out in my role in order to achieve these OKRs. So the quality of the things that you're working on matters a lot. And so when we talk about the things like clarity and alignment and what our guiding principles are, these are the guiding principles in particular. This is what we have agreed upon. Guiding principles we always think of. These are the things we have agreed to do in order to achieve excellence as individuals and as a team. These are our agreements. Now, being clear on what those things are is very important, because people buy how you do what you do more so than they buy just what you do itself. They want an experience. They want to go into your organization and feel like I'm getting something unique from what I'm getting through this company. So they interact with it. It comes to your customer service. It comes to the culture of your organization, all these different things. And if they aren't aligned, the organization suffers and the customers suffer in many cases. And you may achieve some short-term success. Sure, that's possible, but long-term enduring cultures of excellence they happen on purpose. They happen because somebody has put in the time to align and create that. So for data, we're really giving you the ability to track anything you want. So for the leaders listening to this, wouldn't it be great if you could get a sense of it based on which team? You could see all of your teams inside our system, who's doing well with what and who needs help with what. So if you're very quite clear on what each team needs to be successful, and you know that every one of your manager interactions is extremely effective, and inside each touch point, each check-in, each one-on-one coaching session is being tracked. And so we know that the content of what's happening, we know that Sarah over here might need some support with XYZ and Michael might need support with ABC. And we can see not only at the individual level, but at the team level, what sorts of key value drivers are suffering and which sorts of key value drivers are excelling. We can provide targeted support to our employee base. We can provide training. We can go outside and look for something that brings somebody in to teach something. And we can also get feedback from the employee level as to how our managers are actually implementing the process. Because we need to know that we always think of it as a two-way street. And that's really, it's a little different than what exists in a lot of organizations today, because most of them are very directive. I think that's the status quo right now, is still that organizations are very directive. Now, if you read a lot of new literature about what's happening inside companies that really excel, you find that's not happening so much there, that a lot of them are getting more flat. There's a mindset of coaching. So if you're a leader and you're thinking, you've heard about this mindset of coaching and you think, how could I do this? I see that these massively successful companies are doing this. This is how they're thinking about it. I'd like to do that because I'd like to have that level of success, but I maybe don't know how. And maybe I don't have a whole HR team on staff that will help me achieve this goal. That's really what we're offering, is if you use our framework, you use our system to set it up in your way. Once again, not prescribing anything big, but if you use the system, you can track the data that you want. You know what the key performance drivers that you want to track are, what your guiding principles are, where are they showing up. That's the kind of thing that we could help you visualize. We present it all in very easy to see charts, a lot of cool analysis tools on our way. And this is the kind of thing that we're really trying to make more effective through the use of those key things and then measuring them.
And an example of that, I think if we talk about the accounting firm that we worked with, leadership came to us from this firm. It was a growing firm. The key problem that they had a lot of, they had core values listed. They had the framework of the organization, mission statement, all of that. But the employees were not being proactive. That was the main problem, that they were kind of waiting to be told by management what to do next. And so that was a key problem in terms of this dynamic system. And so through this process of really going through, taking what they say they do, as Wade said, and defining it at a granular level, this is what that looks like, uploading that into the software. Then the software becomes a tool that both the manager uses and the employee uses. It levels the playing field. And I think Wade was saying that in that aspect of things being directive, partly that happens because the employee doesn't have much of a voice in that. So, when they're uploading their thoughts about how did that last 03 go and what their needs are, what their perspective on each of those sessions are, that just brings it, for that company, it brings up that proactive aspect because they now have a voice in the coaching session and is documented and guided by the software. Again, I think the key here is the software is not just a data collector, it's a prompt. It serves both the employee and the manager. Like these are the things that we're going for. And I think, I know myself as a manager, as a coach, sometimes I focus on the same thing over and over again. And really, maybe I should for a while be focusing on this other thing, or maybe there's some other aspect that we're not even thinking about that if the software can prompt me, it's going to support that. So I think that is an example that really sort of got us started in this prototype of this work, and it's been developing over time since then.
And I think very often that the ideal goal is improving a company culture. And very often I've seen businesses focus too much on the technology and less on the culture. And before you came on the podcast today, I was reading about the importance of micro moments in creating a company culture. And I know this is something that you're very passionate about. So can you expand on that for me too?
Oh, we love that term, micro moments. Micro moments are pretty foundational to, and this is just a term that we've coined in collaboration with a implementation partner of ours, a really talented consultant. But the idea of micro moments is that we all have I spoke a little bit earlier about the things that we say that we do versus the things that actually happen. So, and this happens all the time. And it's in a way, it's unavoidable that there will be occasional moments where in an employee interaction that emotions are maybe running high, there's frustration sometimes, that's inevitable. And in those moments, we might slightly stray outside of what we say that we're going to be doing. So if we don't have the conversation ongoing inside the organization about how we want to interact with each other, then there's no reinforcement mechanism for doing something right. And some more of these things will go unresolved. And so the micro moments, what we talk about is the company culture happens not because the core values are on the wall or the mission statement everybody feels connected to. It's because of the relationships that exist inside the organization. It's the little touch points that matter. We were just talking about how the universe kind of throws certain things at you. And if you're watching, that will be something it can be very formative, even the little things. So that's what we mean by micro moments. It's these little interactions that we have with each other that if they're low quality over and over, even if it's small, it's death by 1,000 cuts. You'll never have a positive company culture, even if you're doing a lot of other things right, if you don't get these small interactions and relational things correct. So that's why we talk about creating these prompts for coaches to follow inside your organization. Because if you know that the proper things are being asked and interacted upon each time, it's a huge advantage because you can really be sure that we're doing things methodically, which is very important.
And that term comes from Anders Ericsson's work on deliberate practice. He was the guy that Malcolm Gladwell came up with the term 10,000 hour rule performance. But his work was really not focused on the 10,000 hours. What he found is that people can become a master at something in less than 10,000 hours, or they can work more than 10,000 hours and not achieve that at all. And what it is based on what are those small moments of feedback that people are getting. And it's often in the sports world, we think about a sports figure performing something over and over again. And again, they don't work on the things that they're good at. They work on the things they're not good at, but it's very specific, high frequency of feedback. And that relationship usually with a coach, that kind of frequency is not often seen in business. As Wade started the conversation with the annual review. That's not a micro moment. That's a macro moment. It's so general that you can't really think about what did I do on Tuesday at the beginning of this year that was successful or not. So frequency is part of it. The relationship is part of it, and very specific feedback on skills and ways of thinking is part of it.
I think it's a pretty popular, at least a management best practice to meet once every other week and just have a talk about what's going on. And what we're really trying to do is make those talks as effective and data rich as we possibly can, and in a way that's really easy for the people inside your organization to use, because if it's a point of friction, they won't do it. So how can we get as much from those sessions as we possibly can about what's actually happening for each person inside the organization and make it so that it's easy to do, so that we can collect a log of every single one of those micro moments and use that to inform what we're doing.
Love that. And of course, we are literally just a few weeks away from life in 2024. Well-being in the workplace is a huge topic right now. A lot of conversations around that. So just before we enter 2024, what's your vision for the workplace of well-being, improvement of performance management, etc.? What would you say your grand vision is?
One of the reasons why we started this company is we feel like more so than ever before, and to your point, Neil, that this is being talked about a lot, that we feel like people want to feel like they're growing in their career. And that's something that a lot of people have been writing a lot about. There's more commonly than ever are people expecting more from the organizations that they work for. And that's not just in terms of perks and benefits and things that may have been maybe popular over the last 20 years. But more so than ever, people are wanting to know that if I'm investing my time into this organization, that I feel like this organization is also investing in me, and more so than in the form of my paycheck and in the form of my benefits, because those things are important, but they're not everything anymore. People want to feel like their work means something. And so one of the ways that we feel that work can become more meaningful, and it is through this sense of growth that we can achieve. And when we're creating an environment where growth is happening and people feel like they have a relationship with somebody on their team that is growth focused, that is something that is very powerful. And it can create a sense of well-being inside of that relationship for both people involved.
Absolutely. I agree with all of that. And the thing I think I would add is heightening. When we hire people, we hire them because they have some skills that we want, or they have a way of thinking, or they have a way of being that we want because we think that's important for the company. And then we often stick them into a structure where that expertise is not part of the conversation on a weekly basis. It's either just keep doing your job because you're already good enough at it, or the manager is going to come in and sort of, as Wade said, be a little bit more directive rather than having it be much more of a dialogue. So what we're looking for is how do we bring what they're already good at, and it diversifies the perspective of where we're going. One of the things that we focused on a lot is that actually the ground level employees know the organization in some ways better than management does. And if we can increase the conversations so that feedback, that information is getting back into the system on a regular basis, it's going to lead to all kinds of things like innovation and well-being, all of that. So I think I agree with everything Wade said on that, and that idea of how do we make this more of an authentic relationship, and how can we use that technology to keep us informed about what's going on, but bring in many more voices into them.
I absolutely love chatting with you today. But before I let you go, I always like to have a bit of fun with my guests, throw you a few curveballs here. So we have a Spotify playlist containing songs that the guests recommend that people can go listen to, a song that means something to them, or a book on an Amazon wish list. All I'm going to ask both of you here, and Wade, we'll start with you to begin with. What book or song would you like to leave everyone listening, and why?
Oh man, can I include one of each?
Yeah, why not? Yeah, go for it.
Okay. So we'll start with the book. One of my favorites, and this is about a journey of self-discovery, which I feel like is important for people, no matter what your walk of life is. But it's a book called The Way of the Peaceful Warrior. It's by Dan Millman. It's an excellent story. And it's a book loosely based on his personal experience, which has been beautifully fantasized and turned into a little bit of a magical adventure. So I highly recommend that book. It's something that's it's helped to shape many people. If you read about it online, you'll be able to see that right away. People really connect with that book. I am one of them. And as for a song, this will be a great one for you, Neil, because this is a group out of the UK. But there is a song called You Got to Go. It's by a group called Above and Beyond, and they are based out of the UK. And it's a fabulous song about having the courage to take the big leaps in your life. And the lyric begins with "Dream on, little dreamer. this is how it all begins. So I will let you go and listen to that.
Love that. I'm going to be checking that out straight away. And Zoltan, the pressure's on you now, man. What are you going to go with?
Well, I'm actually prefer away from either a book or a song. I mean, I can, but there's a out of the University of Rochester, there's a couple of researchers, and they have this really comprehensive website on self-determination theory. So it's Edward DeCi, DECI, and Richard Ryan. And they've developed this theory of motivation, which they call self-determination theory. And their website is, they're academics. It's actually really interesting. They're academics, but they have the most comprehensive website on this theory about why people do what they do. And the thing that is important to me in this, and it's been formative in my work, is that, and we've touched on this today, that they don't think of motivation as just people do what they're going to do because they're going to get something out of it. What they say is that being motivated is the normal state of the human experience. And if we're not motivated, then there's something wrong. There's something wrong with it going on in the system. And they base it on three principles. One is, do people have a sense of power? Do people have a sense of competence? And do people have a sense of meaning, as we've talked about? And what they're talking about there is that if you don't have those three things working together, you don't have a sense of well-being. Like, motivation is critical to our well-being. And so I can't say it enough for management and whoever's listening to just check that out, because I think it's been really informative for my whole work over the years. And Wade jumped up right on it as well when we've been talking.
It's very good. I highly recommend you go read that. And Zoltan, if I'm remembering correctly, that Daniel Pink did an adaptation of it in a book called Drive, if I remember right.
Yeah.
How about that for the reading list? What about?
It's a few years old because they've been around for a while. But
yeah, it's an older book. But go to the source. I like that recommendation.
But Drive is a great book. Yeah. Thanks for that. And I'm going to
light touch.
Well, I'll have links to all the things we've talked about there. And for anyone listening, maybe want to find out more information about your technology, your software, connect with your team, ask a question, or connect with you, where would you like to point everyone listening? And Wade, I'll begin with you first. Where would you like to point everyone listening to find out more?
Yeah, thanks, Neil. I think I can speak for both of us on this one. And that's, if you are interested in, if you have any questions for us or interested in having better coaching inside of your organization, becoming one of these organizations that really values employee development, an organization of the future and a workplace of well-being, reach out to us. Our website is www.GoMobi.work, W-O-R-K. Reach out to us there. There's a form to fill out on our website. We will get back to you immediately. And we just really look forward to supporting the coaches inside your organization, helping you to develop those relationships that are high quality, and also from the management perspective, giving you the information that you need to make better decisions for your people.
Fantastic. Well, I'll get that link added to the show notes so people can find you nice and easily. Love chatting with you today about defining what most organizations get wrong about performance management, the role of technology and your software in improving clarity, alignment, and the guiding principles in performance management, but also talking about the importance of micro moments and your vision for the future of the workplace of well-being. Absolutely inspiring, both of you, but just a big thank you for taking the time to sit down with me and sharing your story. Thank you.
Thanks for having us. Great chatting with you.
So a huge thank you to today's guests for sharing their valuable insights into the world of performance management and micro moments. And if you found today's episode as inspiring as I did and want to learn more about how technology can further enhance the workplace culture and drive success, be sure to check out the show notes for additional resources and links where you can connect with the guests. Simply go to techblogwriter.co.uk, go to podcasts. You'll find out more information about today's guests, what they do, and also links to 2,600 other interviews too. More than enough to keep you out of trouble over the holiday season. And as always, if you enjoyed today's conversation, please consider subscribing, rating, leaving a review on your favourite podcast platform. It really, really does help bring more listeners to the show. And if there's anything you would like to hear more of or less of in 2024, please let me know. But as we get towards the end of 2023, I just want to say it's a huge pleasure serving you with content every single day of the year. Hopefully you'll join me again next year. But thanks for tuning in to Tech Talks Daily, and until next time, don't be a stranger.